Hi, I'm Tom Cavanagh from the Center for Musical Advancement. I'm going to show you a bunch of different guitar stuff, and I'm going to try to make it different than pretty much everybody else's instructional videos. I'm going to try to do it so the normal thing of a little slow, a little fast, but also just give you more thinking ideas, not just a bunch of shred licks, and more how I teach my lessons, and more an intellectual approach to playing guitar, and instead of just showing you a bunch of licks and you utilizing them in one place and never really leaving that place. So with that concept in mind, the first thing I'm going to talk about is going to be that so many guitar players play the licks that they learn. So they get an instructional DVD, or they get out a magazine, or they get out a lick off the internet, and they learn that lick in that key, and they never play it out of that key, and they're always confined to using that. And you try to jam with them in the key of B flat, but they know all their licks in E. So what I try to get all my students to do is move them into every single key with a metronome. Do it in fourths or do it in fifths. I do it in minor thirds, just moving around the fretboard. And also taking one idea and then making it your own. So if you learn a lick by another guitar player, whether it's Steve Vai or Paul Gilbert or Joe Satriani, somebody like that, you learn one of their licks, then you make it your own by just morphing it a little bit. I look at it as each lick is like a cell, and you can morph that cell or mutate that cell into something that's more your own. So recently, one of the ones I was doing, which I'll show you now, is more of a jazz one. I have a big, strong jazz influence in my playing, which we'll get to also eventually. But applying that to a rock or a shred kind of concept, which is taking these dominant 7 off the Mixolydian scale. It's the dominant 7, A7 arpeggio. Here at the 12th fret, it's 12, 11, 9, 12. So you got that little lick there. It's popular, pretty much normal position arpeggio. So what I get my students to do is you play it there, and that's great, and that's fine, and when it's time to use that in that place, you'll know it. But so many people learn that arpeggio, and then when they say, oh, I've got an A7 chord coming up, okay, I'll do that. And that's great, but what happens when you have an E7 arpeggio or a D7 arpeggio? You should be able to move that all around the fretboard. So what I get my students to do is throw the metronome on and just take it slow at first. Do the... Now I'm moving in fourths. And you go all the way back until you cycle back to where you started, and then do it in fifths. This is going to open up the fretboard for you as well. You're going to know what you're playing and where you're playing, and then you'll have a better grasp of the entire layout of the neck and where all these arpeggios are. Now, I take that a step further in my lessons, and obviously after I've increased the tempo on that, and I can do it at whatever speed I want to do it, I can do it, I move that into all fourths and keep increasing the metronome. Then I mutate that lick, and you can just mutate it by either adding a note, subtracting a note, or even using the notes that you have. So we have 4 notes here. We have A, C sharp, E, and G, which is an A7 arpeggio, as I said. And we're going to change that, and we're going to start, say, randomly, with just the next one in line, the C sharp. So if we do it in thirds, we'll do the C sharp starting on the 11th on the D string, the E, the G, and the A. And essentially what we have here is inversions, which is just chord inversions and arpeggio inversions. So now I'm not going to grab this low A, I'm going to grab a high A and go. It's a totally different lick now. It sounds a lot different, especially when utilized over a chord. So these dominant 7 arpeggios for people who are just learning this stuff are used over A7 chords or dominant 7 chords. So in this case, since we're in A, it's A7 chord, which is the root, the major third, the perfect fifth, and the minor 7. So you've got, and then you use that same idea. Go through every key. Now you've got 2 licks out of 1. You've got your initial arpeggio, and now you've got this one. And you're really not changing much. You're staying in one area. So I'm giving you the maximum amount of things that you can learn out of one lick, and not really have to change a different pattern, and you're going to learn them in every single key. So you go through all 12 keys, you just learned a lot of stuff. So what if we started that on the E and we went... So now we're going through all the inversions of that. And you move that around, then you start on the G. going to open up the world of the neck and also just your musicality. I also suggest that when you do these and you get into the habit of singing them, so that way you can sing them, you start getting used to. You don't have to be the greatest singer in the world. Just sing them so you get used to the arpeggio tones and you can easily go through each key. And when you hear something that you want to play, when you jam with your friends or in your band or whatever, you'll hear it in your head. You can sing it and say, okay, that's the arpeggio I want to use.